Manufacturers today are looking for smarter ways to improve quality and productivity. Hexagon is a global leader in digital solutions that create autonomous connected ecosystems, where data is connected seamlessly, converging the physical and digital worlds, and building intelligence into all processes. Exalt, Hexagon's framework for using IoT data to accelerate digital transformation, provides a base of technologies like cloud computing and artificial intelligence, which enable our smart manufacturing solutions. Hexagon's Manufacturing Intelligence division is digitally transforming manufacturing by converging design and engineering, production and metrology solutions to make our customers' factories smarter. Our design and engineering solutions use computer-aided engineering techniques to simulate reality, so quality is embedded into product design and manufacturability is guaranteed. Our production solutions include CNC simulation and computer-aided manufacturing software that ensure design intent is maintained through the production process, improving productivity and delivering high-quality components. Our metrology sensors capture real-world data for positioning and inspection, while metrology software provides actionable information through advanced analytics and intuitive reporting. Hexagon's expertise in sensor technologies, software and data orchestration enables autonomous connected ecosystems for suppliers and customers, improving quality and productivity by making your factory smarter. Manufacturers today are looking for smarter ways to improve quality and productivity. Hexagon is a global leader in digital solutions that create autonomous connected ecosystems, where data is connected seamlessly, converging the physical and digital worlds, and building intelligence into all processes. Exalt, Hexagon's framework for using IoT data to accelerate digital transformation, provides a base of technologies like cloud computing and artificial intelligence, which enable our smart manufacturing solutions. Hexagon's Manufacturing Intelligence division is digitally transforming manufacturing by converging design and engineering, production and metrology solutions to make our customers' factories smarter. Our design and engineering solutions use computer-aided engineering techniques to simulate reality, so quality is embedded into product design and manufacturability is guaranteed. Our production solutions include CNC simulation and computer-aided manufacturing software that ensure design intent is maintained through the production process, improving productivity and delivering high-quality components. Our metrology sensors capture real-world data for positioning and inspection, while metrology software provides actionable information through advanced analytics and intuitive reporting. Hexagon's expertise in sensor technologies, software and data orchestration enables autonomous connected ecosystems for suppliers and customers, improving quality and productivity by making your factory smarter. Manufacturers today are looking for smarter ways to improve quality and productivity. Hexagon is a global leader in digital solutions that create autonomous connected ecosystems, where data is connected seamlessly, converging the physical and digital worlds and building intelligence into all processes. Exalt, Hexagon's framework for using IoT data to accelerate digital transformation, provides a base of technologies like cloud computing and artificial intelligence, which enable our smart manufacturing solutions. Hexagon's Manufacturing Intelligence division is digitally transforming manufacturing by converging design and engineering, production and metrology solutions to make our customers' factories smarter. Our design and engineering solutions use computer-aided engineering techniques to simulate reality, so quality is embedded into product design and manufacturability is guaranteed. Our production solutions include CNC simulation and computer-aided manufacturing software that ensure design intent is maintained through the production process, improving productivity and delivering high-quality components. Our metrology sensors capture real-world data for positioning and inspection, while metrology software provides actionable information through advanced analytics and intuitive reporting. Hexagon's expertise in sensor technologies, software and data orchestration enables autonomous connected ecosystems for suppliers and customers, improving quality and productivity by making your factory smarter. Manufacturers today are looking for smarter ways to improve quality and productivity. Hexagon is a global leader in digital solutions that create autonomous connected ecosystems, where data is connected seamlessly, converging the physical and digital worlds and building intelligence into all processes. Exalt, Hexagon's framework for using IoT data to accelerate digital transformation, provides a base of technologies like cloud computing and artificial intelligence, which enable our smart manufacturing solutions. Hexagon's Manufacturing Intelligence division is digitally transforming manufacturing by converging design and engineering, production and metrology solutions to make our customers' factories smarter. Our design and engineering solutions use computer-aided engineering techniques to simulate reality, so quality is embedded into product design and manufacturability is guaranteed. Our production solutions include CNC simulation and computer-aided manufacturing software that ensure design intent is maintained through the production process, improving productivity and delivering high-quality components. Our metrology sensors capture real-world data for positioning and inspection, while metrology software provides actionable information through advanced analytics and intuitive reporting. Hexagon's expertise in sensor technologies, software and data orchestration enables autonomous connected ecosystems for suppliers and customers, improving quality and productivity by making your factory smarter.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Zuili Eclaire, and I am the Assistant Editor at Publish Industry India Private Limited. Publish Industry India is a 100% subsidiary of Publish Industry Verlag GmbH, Germany, that publishes the trade magazines A&D India, which is automation and digitization, and EM, which is efficient manufacturing. I will be your host for today's forum, and it gives me great pleasure to welcome all of you to the second edition of the Manufacturing Business Forum, Strategies for Unlocking a Sustainable Growth, which is brought to you by Siemens Digital Industries Software, along with our technology partner Hexagon Smart Manufacturing and metalworking fluid partner Blazer Swizzlube Solutions Private Limited. So ladies and gentlemen, even when the pandemic subsides, it will leave behind a changed economic landscape for manufacturers and their customers. A less global, more local economy presents opportunities for those able to adapt quickly. Industries will be looking to bring supply chains closer to home, and that means manufacturers and the industries they serve are building new factories or reviving old ones. These new factories are likely to be smaller and more automated, with technologies that enable them to change product lines more quickly as the demand shifts. Focusing on advanced technologies and digital transformation could help companies succeed moving forward by better efficiencies in predictability, capacity, availability, and flexibility of manufacturing operations and supply chains. So today's virtual Manufacturing Business Forum will talk about several aspects under this, from the changing industry dynamics in the post-pandemic scenario, resilient manufacturing and supply chains, to effective collaboration across the manufacturing value chain, and lots more. So before we begin today's forum, I would like to give out a few instructions for our presenters so that the webinar can function smoothly without any hindrances. I would like to request everyone to check that your internet connection is stable. It's best if you're using wired LAN connection. For a smoother connection with no issues, you can make sure that the other tabs on your computer or mobile are closed. Please check your web cameras and make sure that you're facing the light so our attendees can see you properly. At the end of each presentation and the fireside chat, we'll be open to Q&As. So if you look at the bottom over there, there's a Q&A. There's a Q&A section on your screen. So you can just put in your questions over there and we will have them answered from our presenters and our speakers. So let me take you through today's agenda. Our forum will begin with the keynote address on the role of additive manufacturing in achieving sustainability, which will be given by Dr. Satyendra Gupta, the director at the Center for Advanced Manufacturing. This will be followed by a session on sustainability in manufacturing value chain by Mr. Shailesh Sharma, Director of Manufacturing at SKF. It will then be time for a sponsor fireside chat on Mythbusters PLM on Cloud by Siemens. This will be followed by a second fireside chat on resilient manufacturing and supply chains. Next, we'll have a sponsor presentation on how can automated QMS solution help in creating a culture of quality, which will be given by Mr. Aditya Chaudhary, Director of Sales for Hexagon Smart Manufacturing in India. After that, we'll have an address on manufacturing business, the changing industry dynamics in the post-pandemic scenario, which will be given by Mr. Neeraj Bisaria, Managing Director and CEO at Premium Transmission. So let us begin. I would like to start by welcoming Dr. Satyendra Gupta, Director, Center for Advanced Manufacturing, who will be giving us the keynote address on the role of additive manufacturing and achieving sustainability. So over to you, Dr. Gupta.
Thank you very much for the introduction. It's truly a pleasure to be here. Today, I'm going to discuss what role additive manufacturing plays in achieving sustainability. So additive manufacturing is a process in which we begin with a digital 3D model, and then we try to create a product from that model in depositing materials layer by layer. It does not require any part-specific tooling, and it enables new geometric possibilities. So the first big benefit that additive manufacturing has for sustainability perspective is reduced use of material. So imagine that you're trying to make this part. If you machine this part, then you will start with a large cylindrical block, and you will be performing a lot of machining, which will then create a lot of wasted material in terms of chips. On the other hand, if you use additive manufacturing, then you can print this part layer by layer, and you would only use the material which will go in the final part. So clearly, there is a significant material saving to be had if you are using additive manufacturing. Sometimes when the geometries are complex and you have overhang structure, then conventional additive manufacturing will require a lot of support material. In that case, people would say that additive manufacturing is also wasting a lot of material. Now, next generation additive manufacturing technologies are actually solving this problem. So by combining artificial intelligence and robotics, we and other groups have developed technologies which basically enable support-less additive manufacturing. So let me show you an example. In this case, we are using two collaborating robots to perform the printing, and therefore one of the robots is tilting the base and providing gravity compensation, and therefore no support material is needed. So in this case, truly, even for really complex geometry, we can do support-less fabrication, and therefore we get rid of support material. So this lets us fully realize the potential of additive manufacturing in terms of reducing material use. Second big benefit of using additive manufacturing is to eliminate use of tooling. So a lot of parts requires injection molds, dies, patterns. So all of those things in traditional manufacturing consume material and supplies. Additive manufacturing, you can print the part directly from digital model, and therefore you save materials and supplies in making tools. So that's another big benefit of using additive manufacturing. Whenever you perform assembly, there's a chance and some error will come into the step, and therefore in the end you will create a defective part, and that need to be scrapped. So it again leads to waste. Additive manufacturing enables realizing geometries which do not require any post-fabrication assemblies. Part come fully assembled, and therefore we reduce the possibility of assembly error, and therefore reduce the possibility that we'll have to scrap the part in there. So this is yet another benefit of additive manufacturing, where additive manufacturing can reduce the waste and overall reduce the negative environmental consequences. Another big benefit of additive manufacturing is reduction of product mass. Since additive manufacturing enables really complex geometries, we can design parts in such a way that we can significantly reduce mass. So in the context of aerospace application, this means that now you're going to spend less energy and cost in carrying these heavy objects into the space. In heat transfer applications, you can make heat transfer process significantly efficient, and therefore you can reduce energy consumption. In case of tooling application, you can process with these light tools in a faster way, and therefore you can have, again, significant saving in terms of energy. Finally, the last benefit of additive manufacturing is that part can be produced on demand, and therefore there's no need to store the parts. And since we're not storing the part, then all the energy that's consumed in the connection with warehouse operation can be saved. So that's yet another big benefit of additive manufacturing. So additive manufacturing can have significant benefits from sustainability perspective and reduce the negative consequences of manufacturing. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Gupta. You very precisely put it out there, you know, how additive manufacturing can be used for sustainability, and you put it in a very concise way. So thank you so much for that, for your keynote address. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions for Dr. Gupta, please do send them across to us, and we will be happy to have them answered by Dr. Gupta. So thank you so much once again. Moving on, we now have a session on sustainability and manufacturing value chain, which will be given by Mr. Shailesh Sharma, Director of Manufacturing, SKF. So Mr. Sharma, over to you.
Thank you, Julie. Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Okay. So the topic given to me is sustainability and across entire manufacturing value chain. We know the kind of crisis we all are going. I think the biggest problem on the planet Earth is the climate change, which is impacting every single person on the Earth. And so that has become very, very important for all of us to understand this problem and contribute in whatever way possible. Every single thing matters. So maybe I will just start talking with, I will share my screen. Is it visible?
Yes, it's visible.
Okay. Yeah. So when we talk about sustainability, generally the only thing which comes in our mind is environment. But sustainability basically has three elements: environmental sustainability, economical sustainability, and social sustainability. Of course, the environment is more related to usage of natural resources in a way that we can use it effectively and they can replenish themselves over a period of time. So it should not happen that everything is finished at one point of time. The second comes economical sustainability, which is more about the equal access of all human beings to all the financial resources. And the third and another important is social sustainability, which talks about the universal human rights are protected, means everybody has a right. Here, when it comes to manufacturing, we are going to talk more about environmental sustainability. So when to start with, first of all, what is value chain? What is manufacturing value chain? In any manufacturing industry, it cannot do everything by its own. There is a dependency on suppliers, tier 1 supplier, tier 2 supplier, tier 3 supplier, and even subcontracting. And there are so many places where a raw material is converted into a finished good after a series of operations within the factory and outside the factory, which is coming from the suppliers. And every supplier has this kind of value chain. So what is value chain? Is a series of operations within one manufacturing unit, and the output of one unit goes to another manufacturing unit, where again it goes through a series of operations, and then it goes to third, and finally it gets converted into final product. And everywhere value is added, and that's why it is called value chain. Now, is it possible to do any value chain without using power, without using energy? Everywhere there is a usage of energy to convert in whatever way. Somewhere, even if it is manual operation, there is a lot of lighting required. If it is a manual inspection, also there is a, so everywhere some or other way energy consumption is there. And it is not only energy, there is a lot many other things. We talked about the natural resources. What are other natural resources? Like water, plastic, paper, oils, chemicals, volatile organic compound. So there are so many things which are there, which are used to convert a part from one form to another. Now, within one manufacturing unit, how it goes, like it starts with the design. And it is expected when we design anything, it should be designed for manufacturing and designed for environment. When we design for environment, means it should use minimum energy, first of all, to convert this product into the final shape. And second, wherever this product is being used, there also it should be used in a way that it reduces the consumption of natural resources. So design is important part, and that's why this is a complete circle where input continuously goes to the design also. So after design, the procurement happens. Procurement means once it is manufactured and then it is shipped to another manufacturing unit, that means it is a procurement with shipment. Shipment means transport. Transport means again usage of some natural resource. And then value addition happens, then again it goes to next operation where packing and distribution happens. There also usage of lot many natural resources, and then the cycle goes on. If we are able to remanufacture the product, that means after end of life, if we give some more life to the product by doing remanufacturing, by doing some retrofitting, some refurbishment of the product, then it is also helps in environment, because we are trying to use the same product for a very longer time. So when we talk what is energy, we talked about energy. Right now the focus of discussion is more on energy aspect. So there are three types of sources from where we get energy. One is, of course, the non-renewable energy, which is very, very common. Non-renewable energy is made out of fossil fuels. For example, diesel or coal or gas or oil. Second part is nuclear, which definitely gets generated with the fusion of various parts like uranium or thorium, but there are a limitation. And the third is renewable energy sources, which is from solar, from wind, from hydro, from geothermal and tidal. So what is non-renewable energy sources? What are the problems with that? The first problem is it's going to be depleted if we continuously to use like this, because resources are always limited, and we are seeing that whether it is coal, whether it is diesel, oil, everything, there is a problem. It will finish sometime. Then the second biggest problem is emits greenhouse gases like CO2 or carbon monoxide or SO2. All these are greenhouse gases which has very, very bad impact on our environment. And that's why we talk about the climate change and the global warming. So this is from energy, from sustainability, from environment point of view, this is a big no. But then what to do? We have only this option, because the nuclear energy is not very common, especially in India. It's hardly 3.4%. So another good option is renewable energy, which is coming very, very fast, more related to the wind and solar, especially, and of course the hydro. By using this kind of energy is very clean energy, which has unlimited, because it will never go. Sunrise is always there, wind is always there, and water is always available. And with the use of that, we can minimize, or we can reach to a kind of zero GHG emission status. Even some more detail about it. So like in India, the electricity generation happens through various resources, the coal being a leader, where 72% energy is still a thermal energy, which is generated with the help of coal. Then we have hydro, which is 12%, wind is 10%, and gas is 3%. So wind, solar, and other renewable energy combined is only 10%. So there are various versions of solar, like rooftop solar, the farm solars. Similarly, wind also, there are many versions, but finally still it is 12%, but it is coming up very, very fast. Just to give the formula, when we use 1 unit of electricity in a thermal electric power plant, where coal is used, it generates 0.95 kg, means close to 1 kg of CO2 emission. But we have a different mix. If we consider entire mix where some other energy is also being used, so for our purpose, the calculation goes like 1 unit of electricity is equal to 0.72 kg of CO2.
यार वैसे सड़ा हुआ जर्नलिस्ट है, ये और पंगे ले जा रही है। क्या हुआ? कहते हैं 3 की जगह 3.5 कर दो। बोला बंद नहीं होगा मैसेज। भाई पागल समझ रखा है।
Can you mute your mic? I'm not sure whose mic is.
I hope everyone is on mute. Yes, please, ladies and gentlemen, whoever is on board with us, please keep your mic on mute so that we won't have any disturbances. I'm really sorry for that, Mr. Shailesh. Please carry on. I apologize for the interruption. Everyone, please, I would request you all to keep your mics on mute. Mr. Shailesh, please continue. I'm so sorry. Thank you.
No problem. So there are 3 categories of GHG emission, which is called scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3. What is scope 1? When we generate electricity by our own purpose and usage for our own usage, by using, for example, diesel, if we are running our plant by DG, by using diesel or other boilers or furnaces, that means it falls under category of scope 1. If we are buying energy from somewhere else, like MSEB or some other agencies, then whatever they are producing energy, they are generating CO2. So somehow we are also responsible for that, but this comes under scope 2. That means we are not generating energy, we are using energy, but wherever it is getting generated, that is emitting CO2. So we are responsible even for that because we are using it. That's why they are generating. Scope 3 goes beyond that. That means when we produce goods, we transport it outside our company. So that uses again transport. So logistic comes into picture, and even the suppliers, our supplier who are producing parts for us, they are producing parts for us, so they are also using energy. So that comes under scope 3. When we talk about net zero, that means completely carbon neutral value chain. That in that case, we are responsible for all scope 1, 2, and 3. Most of the time, companies do scope 2, but if everybody does scope 2, that means somewhere we are going to arrest all the scopes under our umbrella. I hope it is clear. So these are the 3 scope. So by and large, generally company works on scope 2, means the people who are responsible for usage of energy, buying from outside, that is the scope 2. Now, how to control it or how to reduce CO2 emission? So there are 2 ways again. Number 1 is by energy conservation, another by sourcing renewable energy. So sourcing renewable energy means, as I said, the energy conservation, the usage, wastage, and reduce friction, reduce waste wherever it is, the leakage arrest, everything, whatever is possible in terms of energy conservation, but at the same time, more and more renewable energy should be used, like what we are using, what we are doing in SKF now. And of course, the using energy efficient motors, transformers, and everything. So that is how we can arrest our CO2 emission inside the factory, which will be called as scope 2. We should also work on scope 3 when we use how we can synergize and optimize our transport, how we can use more and more carpooling. Even we should work with our supplier so that he also reduces his consumption, so that will be scope 3 for us. What he will do, that will be scope 2 for him, but it will be scope 3 for us. So that's how it goes. Like I've listed many things, like how we can do from demand side, that is basically reduce energy consumption by using breakthrough technology project, energy efficiency, use of LED lights and all that. I'm sure everybody does that, how to conserve energy. And basically that is what I have in this 15 minutes. I'm open for any questions if there is any.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sharma. Very informative presentation, I must say. You touched upon all the relevant points which the manufacturing industry needs to focus on in order to have a more sustainable process and environment at the same time. So yes, we do have a couple of questions for you. We have one question from, let me just open it, 1 second. So we have a question from Mr. Rohit Kamal. He has asked that, can you elaborate more on what procure means in manufacturing value chain?
Procure means when we manufacture something, for example, SKF, I'm just giving my example. We produce bearing. So for bearing, we use components. So we procure that component from our supplier, right? Soft, and then we add value into that. It's always a series of operation, right? We cannot do everything. We are dependent on supply to do some part. Some parts goes directly into assembly of bearing. Some parts are like where we add some more value, like rings. In bearing, there are outer ring and inner ring, which comes in the soft form to us, and then we do heat treatment, and then we do grinding and super finishing. So what we procure is rings.
Correct.
Ring is being made by our suppliers. And when he's making that soft ring, he is using energy to convert that part from another form of raw material, which is either a big bar or tube. So that is what the procurement is.
Okay, we have one more question from an anonymous audience. So you spoke about designing manufacturing in a sustainable way. So many times you're manufacturing, you're designing your products cannot be cannot lead to sustainability goals. So how can design and manufacturing environment, how can design for manufacturing and the environment go hand in hand? That you make sure that your design favors the environment. How do you make sure of that?
So for example, I talked about energy efficient.
Right.
Did we hear this 10 years before, energy efficient? So that is the input which goes, continuously goes. So how to make a product energy efficient? Now, how a motor can be energy efficient? That can be energy efficient when there is a less friction. For example, now again come back to Escape, where we make bearings. We have to produce a bearing in such a way that the friction can be further reduced, the torque further reduces. When it is reduces, it will be even more smooth running. That means it will draw lesser of less energy. And that's why it will become, and then it will go to a motor, which can be called as energy efficient. I have given the example of only bearing, but there are many parts, like even some belt, some linear motion, some many things which goes inside. Everything, if it becomes, and this is how it goes continuously. How to keep changing design of product so that it becomes even more and more sustainable.
All right. We have a question from again an anonymous audience. Sir, can you cite an example of remanufacturing and how some companies have implemented it?
Okay, so again, I will give example to Escape only, where we produce big bearing like 1 meter, 1.5 meter bearings, and it goes to various application like railways, wind application, thermal power plants. So after a certain amount of time, when the life is more or less exhausted and it is of no use, the one option is to just to throw it as a scrap and buy new bearing. But in Escape, we take those bearings back. We do grinding on the raceway. We change rollers if required, and we do complete refurbishment of those bearings, because the cost of those bearings are very, very high. It is in lakhs. So, and then we give back to the customer with whatever value addition we do, that will be the price. So it is good for both customer as well as for environment, because customer now probably we add another 30-40% life. So for customer, it is not required to pay again too much of amount to get the new bearing. It will be, of course, the price will be much lesser than the life what it can get. And when he's using to produce the similar bearing, again, of course, there is again lot of energy will be consumed. That's why remanufacturing is also a good part of sustainability.
Very well put. We have one more question from an audience member. The question is focused on data, actually. Now, we all know that the manufacturing industry is one of the sectors, is one of the sectors under particular pressure to reduce its carbon dioxide emissions. And you spoke about carbon dioxide emissions in your presentation right now. So can you tell us how data can be used to meet decarbonization goals? Like, how can businesses actually reap all the benefits from the data right now, and how they can ensure that their employees are equipped with the skills needed to analyze data correctly, and that well-structured plans that help meet their business goals and also benefit the environment. So how can it be done through data?
Yeah, so one data which is required, of course, how much energy we are using from renewable sources. If that data is, so we very well know how much how GWH energy we are taking from renewable and how much we are using from a conventional sources of energy. Whatever is from renewable, that goes directly under CO2 emission 0. That means we are not emitting any CO2. And whatever we are using from conventional, we need to convert that. If we are if we are aware of that, for example, we are getting this energy from MACV, but we don't know where MACV is sourcing this energy from. If we know MACV is sourcing, let's say 50% from hydro, then we can very well cut that also. Okay, whatever we are using, 50% can be cut, but remaining 50% is still from conventional. So that can be converted into CO2 emission. That is one example. Another is the data of how much energy we are saving. So it goes, generally we use it in the form of specific energy consumption to add value. For whatever we are doing, for example, we are producing 1000 parts. So how much energy required to make 1000 parts? If we do some improvement and the X amount of energy which was being used is now 0.8x, that means we have reduced 20% of total energy consumption to produce the same number of parts. How this energy can be reduced? Again, by using, first of all, by eliminating waste in the system. Secondly, by using more and more energy efficient motors, compressors, and also reduce distance, transport, and all these things. So then finally we will come to know, okay, and then convert that into that 20% into, okay, with this we have saved, so this much CO2 further we have reduced. Another data point, when we are doing like, if we are producing energy efficient bearing. So we know how much frictional torque earlier it was, and now with energy efficient, how much frictional torque is now. So whatever is the reduction in percentage, we can convert it into how much less energy it will consume when it will go to the application, and that can be converted. Similarly, another data point is the supplier, how much supplier is using energy and how much supplier is not only for one company, he's supplying to many customers. How much we are buying from it, how much is the portion of energy he is using for us. So we are responsible for that much energy and CO2 emission. So we have to do something to compensate, to give back. So, and similarly, product design, as I said. So all these data to be used, we can form some database where all this energy. Another good way of collecting data is putting IoT sensors, energy meters, and get all those data in a dashboard. And those data will give a lot of input for taking some projects.
All right. I think we'll take one last question before we move on to the next speaker. We have a question from Yash Kulkarni. He is asking, can you please share your views if in value addition there can be an impactful role of green supply chain?
Of course. As what we talked about, now supply chain is from last mile of our supplier to the final customer. So this is complete supply chain, and everywhere value chain also come under that. So wherever value chain is there, wherever value addition is happening, if we are able to do it in a sustainable way, the production and also transportation put together, it becomes supply chain. And if we are able to reduce CO2 emission, that will become a green supply chain.
Correct. Okay, so I think we will take more questions offline for Mr. Sharma. So ladies and gentlemen, if you have more questions, please send them to us. We will get them answered for you. And Mr. Sharma, thank you so much for answering our audience questions, and thank you for that excellent, very informative presentation. We are very pleased to have you with us today. So thank you so much once again. Ladies and gentlemen, moving on, it is now time for a sponsor fireside chat on Mythbusters PLM on Cloud. So engaging in this chat will be Mr. Kevin Hansen, Asia Pacific Portfolio Development Executive, Collaborative Design Solutions, Siemens. Mr. Pramod Prabhakaran, Team Center, Asia Pacific Portfolio Development Executive, Siemens, and Mr. Mobin Joseph, Product Lifecycle Management, Siemens Digital Industries Software, India. Our experts today will discuss the role of PLM in Industry 4.0 and address the myths around PLM on cloud in this chat today. So I would like to hand over to you gentlemen. Thank you. Over to you.
Good afternoon all, and welcome again to this session. In the last couple of years, especially from the beginning of 2020, there has been a lot of talks around digitalization and Industry 4.0. In this era of digitalization, software companies, software solution providers are playing a significant role in supporting our manufacturing industry in their digitalization journey. SaaS offerings or software as a service is on the rise, especially in the mobile and 5G era. However, when we speak with our customers, we realize that there are a lot of myths, a lot of concerns related to software as a service, especially in the PLM space. In this session, what we're going to do is we're going to cover some of the myths which we hear from some of our customers. We have 3 people joining us from Siemens, including me, with close to 50 plus years of experience in the industry. We have Kevin Hansen, who joins us from Japan. We have Pramod Prabhakaran, who joins us from Bangalore, India. And we have Mobin Joseph, myself, who joins us from NCR. So let's begin. So the first myth, this is for you, Kevin. When I speak to my customers, they typically say that there is no relationship between a customer's Industry 4.0 journey and their PLM journey. What are your thoughts about this?
Thank you, Mobin. I think it's a great point to start the conversation with. I've heard about this a lot in the industry and quite a lot from our customers as well. I want to start by showing this particular slide from IDC. Some of you may have already seen it. It talks about how exactly industrial progress has taken place over time and the journey to Industry 4.0. Now, in Industry 4.0, the main theme is IT and OT convergence. And when we talk about IT-OT convergence, one of the key themes is to build a data foundation that can act as a backbone to exchange data across roles in systems. And for the data in question, for manufacturing companies, the design data itself forms the foundation block. Most of our listeners would be aware about PLM and how it integrates people with various processes, leveraging technology, managing the engineering data, managing all the engineering processes, leading up to all the manufacturing process is a key aspect of PLM. Providing the right information to the right stakeholder at the right time is key to making Industry 4.0 journey successful for our customers. Hence, a sound PLM system and strategy around it will help an organization to navigate that journey efficiently. So going back to what you said, Mobin, there's no relationship between Industry 4.0 journey and PLM. All I can say is that the role of PLM cannot be emphasized more for successful digital transformation and Industry 4.0 journey for any organization.
Thanks, Kevin. Pramod, this one is for you. PLM is a big elephant meant for big organizations. What are your thoughts about this?
Thanks, Mobin. And to be honest, this is a very valid concern and a very valid question as well. However, in order to answer this, I think we need to break it down into 2 parts. The first part of the question can be whether PLM is required by the SMB segment in the first place or not. And the second part is whether this PLM journey is a difficult one or an impossible one for the SMB customer base. Let me take care of the first part now. The SMB customers right now are facing the same kind of challenges of increasing complexity for the electromechanical parts that they are manufacturing. And this is in line with the kind of challenges some of these big organizations are also facing. Now, the biggest issue is that this kind of complexity is going to increase in the years to come. And that is why PLM has become one of the most prioritized items by manufacturers of all sizes. This is what we're seeing from our customer base across the globe. And interestingly so, some of the startups are also embarking on this journey now. For example, look at some of the statistics that are presented in this slide, which gives an idea of the comparison between 2 kinds of customer. One customer that has adopted the PLM solution well, and another customer who's yet to get started with his PLM journey. Right from improvements in design reuse, reduced development time, less time wasted, that of course helps an organization to reach the larger business goal like reduced time to market. These are the types of benefits that an SMB customer can get through a PLM journey, right? And hence, PLM is a must for organizations of all kinds of sizes. Now let us look at the second part of the myth. And traditionally speaking, PLM was considered too big for SMB customer base. It was because of various factors like right from upfront investment that was required to get a PLM system going, the time it would take to deploy a PLM solution and to realize the business benefits from it, to some of the other factors like the complexities that are involved in managing the requirements, securing the servers from an IT standpoint, and future scaling up was always a challenge, and it was always considered to be very, very expensive. By the way, this is not to suggest that the ROI would be lower if you have a customer that is willing to take the traditional approach. But these factors that are mentioned on these slides were always considered as a barrier for SMB customer, for an SMB customer to take the PLM journey. And that's why an approach is needed for SMB customer base to get started quickly with their PLM journey, maybe with smaller investments to address their immediate needs, and then having the ability to grow their environment as and when they are ready with more capabilities and more integrations. Here, the goal is to provide a simplified PLM with a prepackaged solution that is loaded with industry best practices. I think that's where a SaaS-based PLM offering comes into the picture. For example, we at Siemens also provide a cloud SaaS PLM with full PLM functionalities on the cloud, and this is completely operated by Siemens. Now, because this is a cloud SaaS delivery, users are able to realize the value of an instant-on PLM system. And it is built on modern cloud platform, which is future-ready, which helps in taking the advantage of the latest technology that is available in the market. By the way, along with our SMB customer base, many of the large enterprises are also taking SaaS-based PLM journey with us as we speak.
Insightful. Pramod, this question or this myth is again addressed to you. So SaaS-based PLM is a corporate jargon. What are your thoughts about this?
Yes, Moben, and in the context of today's discussion, I think it's a great discussion point. In the previous section, for example, we looked at the barriers to entry for a PLM journey for our customers, especially in the SMB segment, right? Now, let us also take a look at what the research analysts say. For example, research shows that the IT spend will continue to shift towards the cloud solution, and it's not only applicable for PLM, but it's applicable for all other business areas as well. In fact, this pandemic that we are going through right now has highlighted the need for access to data anywhere, right? With this work from home requirements, which has also become the norm. Hence, these usage of cloud technology is here to stay and has become a norm right now. By the way, we are also hearing from our analysts where recent studies are showing that businesses are looking to cloud solution providers to lower their cost, ensure security, reduce the overall IT overhead, and provide global access to data in a very secured manner to all their employees. And cloud solutions guarantee that in a way. I think from a PLM perspective, this myth might still remain. And it has been around for factors like mindset and maybe robustness of the solution. Now, we at Siemens, we provide the top PLM solution, which is out there in the market. And we've had this cloud-based PLM offering for some time now. Hence, it is no more a corporate jargon or a myth. So we have customers who have gone live with the solution, and you as customer can also get started fairly quickly and fairly easily. But for us to really overcome this mindset barrier, I think what is required is for us to clearly explain what does a SaaS-based PLM really mean. So as part of this offering, what Siemens does is we take care of the whole infrastructure, the PLM application that's required, and of course, all the third-party softwares which are required to run the PLM solution. Hence, customers do not have to worry about strategizing their IT infrastructure for PLM or worry about taking care of all the fundamental foundational blocks that are required for the PLM software. So all of this, everything is packaged into one single offering that takes care of the security with guaranteed uptime amongst various other benefits. As part of this also, Siemens does all the heavy lifting, including the operations, maintenance, and the upgrades. And where the unique selling point really comes in is that based on the best practices and the industry knowledge that we have picked up doing thousands of implementation, all of that have been bundled into one simplified, pre-configured SaaS solution for our customers.
Right. So thanks, Pramod. Kevin, let me pose this myth to you. So there is no PLM organization that provides a complete SaaS PLM offering. What do you have to say about this?
All right, Mobin, I'll take this one, thanks. I cannot vouch for other PLM vendors, of course, but I think this is where we need to introduce the members of our audience to the name Teamcenter X. Teamcenter X is an evolution of our standard Teamcenter offering. It's the cloud offering from Siemens that Pramod was speaking about earlier. SaaS-enabled and cloud-ready Teamcenter X. It's specifically designed to bring our customers value with instant-on, future-ready PLM. The nice part about Teamcenter X is it can grow with you and as your business needs change. One can opt to add in different combinations of solutions from the Teamcenter portfolio to match your growth or changing needs. And regarding the myth whether there is no complete SaaS-based PLM solution in the market, Teamcenter X, just like normal Teamcenter, supports the complete digital twin, managing electrical, mechanical, and software components in a single multi-domain bill of material. This slide captures the prepackaged solutions that are available to the customer. This includes integrations for leading CAD solutions like NX, Solid Edge, SolidWorks, Creo, and others. Support for fundamental PLM capabilities like change management, schedule management, and visualization for realizing a true digital twin. All of this is provided as part of standard Teamcenter X offering. In addition to that, Teamcenter X provides pre-configured industry solutions for medical device manufacturers and machine building customers. And we have plans to bring many more such industry-focused solutions in 2022 and coming years. Teamcenter X provides a framework for customers to add any other module of Teamcenter to the overall deployment. For example, it also includes something as complex as an ERP integration. So to summarize, as far as a completeness of solution is concerned, Teamcenter X can be configured to provide a full and robust PLM solution in the cloud.
Thanks, Kevin. That's quite insightful. Another myth, which is also a very hot topic these days, is that SaaS-based PLM comes with a huge security risk. What do you have to say to our customers, Pramod?
Well, Mobin, I actually get this question quite a lot from our customers. So let me try and respond to that in the context of Teamcenter X. So Teamcenter X as an application solution is hosted on top of AWS infrastructure, and hence it comes with all the built-in features, security features that any leading cloud infrastructure provider needs to have. And AWS is a market leader when it comes to infrastructure providers. Now, this particular slide that I'm displaying is actually a loaded slide, but let me give a gist of how Teamcenter X takes care of the security aspect in the application layer. So the security protocols for Teamcenter X includes encryption of data at rest, audit logging. There are well-defined roles and process for operations personnel, and including the deployment itself. So all the components are securely deployed, and it is driven by the best practices around access control implementation. There are various kinds of penetration testing done by independent third-party companies. One example is SOC 2 Type 1, where we are already audited. There are numerous others compliance certification that are in the works, especially to meet the unique requirements of some of the industry vertical customers, for example, aerospace and defense. Hence, going back to your original question, so Teamcenter X comes fully loaded and takes care of all the security concerns, both from the issues that can probably happen at an infrastructure layer or can also happen at an application layer. So, so customers can get started with their journey without worrying about the security aspect with this particular solution.
Right. So thanks, Pramod. Kevin, this is addressed to you, and this is the final question. Why choose Siemens?
That's a fair question that every customer should definitely be asking. We've talked about the offerings that Siemens has and the fact that Teamcenter X is nothing but Teamcenter packaged into a cloud environment, and an environment that includes the industry best practices from our years of experience deploying Siemens Teamcenter all around the world with various industries. But don't just take our word for it. Listen to what the various research analysis are saying. For example, this slide details a recent assessment by Forrester Research where they gave their opinion on the top PLM vendors in the world. Siemens ranked #1 for our current Teamcenter offering and overall strategy. Siemens took the top scores in market presence, the highest possible scores in 23 different criteria, all laid out here for you to read. To give you an idea and mention some of the more common ones, the Forrester Wave PLM report assessed embedded software lifecycle, digital twin, and simulation as key differentiators for Siemens. Siemens' ability to deliver the most comprehensive digital twin, including mechanical, electrical, electronic, software, and simulation data, and the world's leading visualization helped give us a strong leadership position in the report. You can feel free to reach out to any one of us in case you'd like to get access to the detailed Forrester report. We'd be happy to share that with you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Pramod and Kevin, for the wonderful session. We have come to the end of of the myths which we ideally wanted to cover during the session. But I'm sure that you as audience would have certain queries, some more questions which we were not able to answer. So we are open to questions now. We are ready to take your questions and
Thank you, gentlemen, for that very engaging chat. It was very interesting to learn about the cloud and PLM. So let me see if we have any questions, which I'm sure we do. One moment. Yeah. So we have most questions about Teamcenter. So we have one question from an audience saying that, can you tell about Teamcenter reporting and analytics?
Right. So we have a good functionality in Teamcenter, which is called Teamcenter Reporting and Analytics. The good thing about this is that in an organization, the management would want to see what is the progress on the projects, whether the projects are on track, whether the RFQs that are being that they receive, what is the progress on the RFQs. So with our reporting and analytics solution, it provides a good insight for the management. It has a good dashboarding capability. It provides close to 100+ out-of-the-box report. So if an organization is looking at projecting or getting the right information to their management, the reporting and analytics functionality of Teamcenter is something that can really help them out. But what is important is for them to first have say Teamcenter, first at least have that digital backbone. Once they have that, and once they are able to manage their data, their product lifecycle management data within Teamcenter, then they will be in a position to use this add-on functionality of reporting and analytics.
All right. Then we have another question again from an audience member asking that how is this is actually a very interesting question. How is Teamcenter different from Windshield?
Right. So Pramod, do you want to take that up?
Yeah, I can. Let me take that. Just give a background. I joined Siemens from PTC itself. But for the audience, I mean, me being in Siemens, me talking about Teamcenter of how good it is compared to some of the other products out there in the market, probably it will not serve the purpose. And if you remember what we were trying to cover in our presentation, where Kevin was talking about some of the leading analysts who have given a report about what are the areas, what are the leading PLM softwares out there in the market, and what are the capabilities on which Siemens was ranked as #1 in terms of strategy and execution. I think that would be more relevant report. So what I will request the audience is that maybe you can drop a text to the organizer. What we will be able to do from our side is that we will be able to give you the link from where you can download the report and go through that. I'm sure it will be very convincing for you.
Sounds good. Sounds good. We'll make sure we do that. We have one more question. What kind of training can be offered on Team Center X?
Yeah, Moban.
Yeah, Pramod, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, all right. So let's understand the fundamental about Team Center X. The idea is that we want our customers to get going very quickly with the PLM journey, and none of the typical dependencies that are there in any PLM journey, we want to avoid all of that. So as part of Team Center X, you have all kinds of flexibility. One is we provide online training along with the overall offering. So as and when you go live, or you have, let's say, a Procure Team Center X and you're about to go live, these trainings are made available to you, talking about each and every functionalities. That is definitely there. What we are also observing is, in spite of having this, some of the people also ask us, can you give us face-to-face trainings, classroom kind of trainings, because that has been a traditional approach. People are very comfortable with that. So we have consultants across all the countries. And if you want to take that approach, you have that flexibility as well. But from your standpoint, having access to content, which is getting delivered to you in your laptop, which you can access as per your convenience, that's something that's our long-term go-to-market, which is made available with Team Center X. And of course, classroom trainings, etc., is also a flexibility that you have.
All right. We have another question. Does Team Center X allow its users to edit product data and 3D designs as processes?
Yeah, so let me answer that, and probably Kevin, you can add more post I answer. So see, the entire purpose of a PLM or say a Team Center is to give you the flexibility of integrating your CAD with PDM or with Team Center. So with Team Centers, you can work in your own environment. Say a user is using NX or SolidWorks or Solid Edge or Creo as the CAD platform. Within the CAD platform, they can access Team Center. They can do their edits in their native CAD, and then from there directly load a check-in or check-out data into Team Center. So Team Center gives you the flexibility of working with multiple CAD systems at the same time, and provides the functionality which the user has asked. Kevin, you would want to add something more?
No, I think you covered all the details. I think for me, it comes down to our, it starts with our CEO. The philosophy we have is that openness is key. So for Team Center, we truly believe that openness is key, and that's why we support all these different non-Siemens CAD systems and data formats.
All right. All right. We have another question by Pulkit Garg. The question is that how is the TCO comparison Vis-A-Vis on-premise versus a cloud for a 5-year window?
Yeah, so it's a good question to have. See, typically when we get into the TCO calculation, there are multiple factors which comes into play. When we look at a 5 or a 3-year TCO, typically it's you see some kind of saving with the SaaS offering compared to, say, the traditional offering. But more than the TCO, it's about the flexibility that the user gets. In today's scenario, when I speak to so many of my customers, all of them are looking at moving towards the cloud because it's giving them the opportunity to work from anywhere. Right. So it's more than the TCO, it's about the opportunities that opens up for the customer. They're able to work from anywhere. They're able to access the information from anywhere. You have people who are working in the shop floor, and if they want access to the data, or say if someone is going and meeting their customer and they need access, they need to access some product information which they would want to show their customer. With offerings on the cloud, that possibility is there compared to say an on-premise deployment. So TCO is one thing. There are definitely certain benefits, but apart from that, with a SaaS-based offering, you get a lot more things. You can also scale up or scale down based on your requirement.
All right. So those were the questions that we had for our audience. Let me just check if we have any more. 1 second. Yeah, so if we have any more questions from the audience, we will definitely take them offline. And so audience, if you have any more questions for our Siemens team over here, please feel free to send them to us, and we will be happy to get them answered from our speakers and the Siemens team. So once again, thank you so much, gentlemen. This has indeed been a pleasure. Thank you very much for that very engaging and informative fireside chat. So thank you so much once again.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Have a good day.
Have a good day. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the fireside chat by Siemens, but that was not your last fireside chat. We have one more exciting and very interesting fireside chat lined up for you. This is going to be a fireside chat on resilient manufacturing and supply chain. And joining us in this chat will be Mr. Chaudhary, sourcing leader, global supply chain, Woodward Inc., and Mr. Vivek Gosen, General Manager, Manufacturing Engineering at MG Motors, who will discuss all things supply chain, from what must manufacturers focus on to make a more habitable planet in the supply chain, to how manufacturing supply chain can turn pandemic proof. So I would like to request you gentlemen to join us. And so over to you, Mr. Chaudhary and Mr.
So hi Kushal, good to see you again.
Just before you both begin, I think somebody's mic is muted. We're kind of getting a disturbance. I would request everyone to please go on mute. Yeah, I think we're good to go. Yes. Welcome, gentlemen. You may begin.
So Kushal, I think I would start this discussion. So first question addressing to you. I mean, what do you think about the sudden and extreme impact on the supply network in light of the pandemic, which has forced manufacturing companies to rethink about the supply chain? Has the manufacturing industry risen to these challenges and mitigated those issues, while also ensuring that the supply chains they remain resilient to the future disruptions? And I mean, do you think that the manufacturing supply chains can turn pandemic proof by any chance?
Mr. Chaudhary, you're on mute.
Now you're on mute line.
Yeah. Now can you
Can you hear me now?
Absolutely.
Hear you now.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, so I think that's a very interesting question. I would like to start with a very interesting concept which was introduced by a very famous author of 21st century, Nassim Nicholas Taleb, and he wrote multiple books. Two famous books are Fooled by Randomness and Black Swan. So he introduced a concept called anti-fragility. So while we went through this disruption, a pandemic, and this is described by him as an kind of once in a century or once in a decade kind of event, which he described as a black swan. And this to deal with this kind of events, his book talks about going much beyond resiliency and robustness. So he because when we say resilience, it's kind of ability to recover from the failure, or when you say robust systems, it is that system actually it's the ability of that system to resist the failure. But the anti-fragility is something which gets better with more and more disruption. So that is where we and this concept has been already implemented into the financial markets, stock markets and other volatile situations. So we brainstormed and we thought, why we cannot implement this for sourcing and manufacturing kind of environment. And that's when we started brainstorming about it. So we discussed this, we need to increase the capability to thrive as a result of these disruptions, shocks, noise, fault, mistakes, attacks and failures. And then we discussed how do we implement that into manufacturing environment. So the ideas we came up with was, we tried to take off some of the key tools, some of the key human resources out of our current systems and see what impact it has got if we want to run our system as a normal system. So every time we take off, for example, we're taking out some important tool which we use, ERP. It's down for, let's say, 12 hours. What happens to our whole logistics, supply chain and manufacturing network? Or if we take out a key person of the system, what happens to the entire flow of the system? And then we came up with a lot of different ideas which ensured that the system kept flowing in spite of those disruptions. And in fact, we came up with some of the ideas which made that system more of a disruption proof, to be able to respond to those kind of situations. And I think the digital transformation played a very key important role into this. And specific about the strategies which we implemented, I think maybe we can get into that when we are into a more of a strategy focused discussion. But this is overall theme which we try to implement to make our systems pandemic or maybe a disruption proof.
Okay.
Yeah. So, Mr. Gosen, what I think is, because I have been managing supply chain manufacturing onto the aerospace and industrial side. So I have been always curious, because automotive is something which is where the volumes are really high and things move pretty quick, fast, and you have a lot of model launches coming in at very short period of time. So being an executive leader in the automotive domain, how do you deal with the frequent supply chain disruptions?
Yes, very appropriate question. Actually, it's been with us for a long time. Actually, it started off with the advent of the pandemic towards end of 2019, and then we went into the lockdown sometimes in March timeframe in the country. So prior to this, I think the supply chain system that we had in the industry was pretty smooth. We didn't have any concerns. We had a systematic lead times for the local parts, for just-in-time parts, and for the parts which are imported from other countries. So it was doing pretty fine till the time we were hit by the pandemic. So what happened was, with the lockdown coming in, as companies, supplier companies all across the globe and also in the country, they went into the shutdown mode, and some even didn't start once the operations got resumed once the lockdown was over. So what happened was, it's actually, I'm trying to show a larger picture that for the current situation of the supply chain that we have right now, it is basically arising because of the pandemic, and because of the diversion of the material. So in automotive industry, we have basically classified two kind of components or the assemblies. One are basically which are non-chip dependent, and the other one category is chip dependent parts. So with the COVID coming in and the shutdown, the lockdown, the automotive industry, we reduced the projections to the semiconductor suppliers, and as a result, they diverted their chips, manufacturing towards consumer goods, because while automotive industry went down, the demand for consumer industries like the electronics industry that increased. So the expectation was not that once the lockdown is over, the automotive industry will bounce back the way it did. So with that, the chip manufacturers were not ready. So that is how we entered into two stages. One, to have availability of chip related parts. Second, because of the container imbalance between China and the North America and other countries, even the container availability has become an issue. So what happened was, we actually resorted to large ordering with considering the large lead time. So any material which used to have a 1 month of a lead time or a month of a storage, we increased that to say up to 2.5 months to make sure that any irregularities in the supply chain should not impact our production lines. That was one. Second one, on the chip components. So what happens is, usually the chip related components, the chips are basically assigned, in terms of a quota to different companies. So same applies to NG India also. So we get chips in a short, on a short lead time basis to our suppliers, and the chip based components, they get ready elsewhere in this, like countries like in China or Malaysia, and then we get them on a just-in-time basis. For instance, some of the chip-related parts, they would get loaded into the aircraft on a previous night, and that will be used into our vehicles the next day. So this has been the ongoing process for over, I would say, months, let's say 6 to 7 months now. And we have booked about 30 tons of air freight load on an everyday basis, on which our chips specific parts they are getting loaded, and then we have a local flights, and then these parts reach to our plant on just-in-time basis. In addition to that, with the pandemic, we have actually learned to deal with the supply chain disruptions and started living in a new normal. When I say new normal, means like, because of the intermittent material supply, we are basically we have resorted to adjusting our production schedule, not based on the other components inventories, but based on what we have in our hand on a few hours or few days basis. So that is how the production scheduling is done. And then sometimes we have to resort to shutting down operations on weekdays and then running the operations on weekends, on Saturdays, Sundays, or holidays for that matter, or maybe doing some extra shifts to cover up. Apart from that, because the packaging and the assembly levels, they were also getting disrupted. They were posing disruption in terms of the shippers taking the load of big packages. So we have also resorted to basically break down the assemblies, get them in small components, and start doing assemblies inside the plant, which were usually done by the supplier at supplier locations. And also what we have done is that we have resorted to building the vehicles with shortages, in the sense, if I'm able to assemble a car without, let's say, an amplifier, which I can install once the complete vehicle is built, then I would do that. Maybe I build few vehicles, maybe about 15, 20, 100, or maybe a little more than that, so that I'm utilizing the production time effectively, and then I can put a separate crew to install those components and fill up the shortages, and then do the retesting of the vehicles, and then process them to the consumers. So off late with this pandemic, we have learned a lot of means and ways to ensure that the disruptions in the supply chain are absorbed at the plant level, and we are trying to ensure that we are able to supply the finished cars to the customers. So that has been the way of life for last few months. We see the light at the end of the tunnel, but sometimes it becomes bright, sometimes it becomes a little darker. But then there is always hope that we would overcome this situation in a very short time to come. So that was my story, Kushal. So I mean, question to you is that while this has happened, the global pandemic has been there, although it has a receding trend as of now. But apart from that, we have geopolitical tension. I mean, earlier it was between our area. Now it is basically appears to be extending in another area, in another part of the world. Europe and Russia, as I mentioned. And also we've had severe weather events, some calamities in the past, and so these are some of the factors which generally disrupt the supply chain. Earlier these supply chains used to be very cost effective and reliable, but with these kind of disruptions, what do you think? What are the strategies which should be deployed in the supply chain, which can be which would be different, and then which will be enabling to ensure sustainable production on the production floors?
I think this is a very good question, and this makes much more sense and much more relevance at the backdrop of what has happened yesterday, day before, and the Russia invaded Ukraine, and then we entered into another a global. I think it will have some impact onto the supply chains as well. Whoever is anyway exposed to these two countries. But before that, I would really, I should mention that the insights you mentioned about the chip, the way you manage the chip shortages and continuous flow of your assemblies was really something which is different than what we experience in our industry. So it was very insightful. Coming back to how do we, or what kind of strategies we implement to kind of manage these kind of situations. So I would like to start with three things. We have been hearing a lot about maintaining a buffer stock. You mentioned that you increased your buffer stock from 1 month to 2 months, and then we also have, and traditionally we have been doing dual sourcing strategy. Everybody does that. And then we also kind of because of this events like Russia, Ukraine yesterday. So we have a strategy called in country for country. So we try to source more products in the same country where it is consumed, unless and until it is extremely non-competitive or not possible. And then we use these three things together as complementing each other. We have buffer stocks built at our existing suppliers. We try to have implement in country for country. So we have the suppliers in the same region, same country, same geography where the products are going to get consumed for assembly test or end consumer is there. And then and if you are going for dual source, and dual source cannot be kind of a solution to every problem, and each of the product cannot be dual source many times. So complement those other strategies along with the dual source, and if at all we are going for dual source, ensure that both the sources are not in the same country, same region, or same geography. Second thing we came up with was kind of a supplier risk dashboard. So this is a proactive tool which is kind of a dashboard which monitors the health of the supplier, the risk involved with that supplier. So there are this is an automated tool. Many of the metrics like the suppliers PPM, OTD, other metrics are they automatically pulled from the system. And there are some manual fields which every responsible global supply chain manager has to fill in terms of for the fields which are more of a subjective, like for example, if you see any financial risk with those suppliers, if you see higher manpower turnover with that supplier, you see any geographical risk in that region, you see any political risk, particular state is kind of for example, there are going through and much higher accelerated pandemic related disruptions. So those kind of things. And there is a score which populates, and then we kind of, review that on weekly basis, and whichever suppliers are crossing that threshold, they're put on to kind of, a higher level of observation, I would say, and then appropriate proactive actions are taken to mitigate that risk. Historically, and the third strategy we entered into was, historically we had a different inventory models or strategies, like vendor managed inventory, supplier owned inventory, third party logistics, buffer stocks, and all. So we really revisited everything, and we wanted to send a consistent message across all of our global locations to all of our supplier base, and we really came up with something which is more customized rather than robust, something VMI all across did not work in the past, or supplier owned inventory across board, across global, all categories of suppliers did not work. So we came up with something like that. Fourth area which we really focused on was making our system more and more lean. While responding to this change, many organizations have really faced with a very harsh reality. They realized how much waste, inefficiencies they had into their day-to-day processes. And we with the pandemic, we had to play our game with a very different set of limitations, and we had different boundaries here to play with, and that really forced us to challenge our status quo. Some of the things which we had to do, which we never thought earlier would have been possible virtually, like the supplier assessment, new supplier assessment, or new supplier capability, capacity assessments. Earlier, our 3-member team used to visit supplier 3 days, do it thoroughly. We really use some digital tools, video streams, and we use drones, and we use online tools to monitor real-time, production data at the shop floor of suppliers, to kind of come up with something which we never thought could happen before pandemic. So these are the various strategies which we use, and of course, I would say the fundamental base for it was all digital transformation, which I introduced into my earlier question. So I won't talk about it because of the time constraint we have right now.
True, very insightful. Yeah.
Yeah. So Vivek, so what must the manufacturers focus on to create more and more habitable planet through supply chain? Because we talked a lot about how to keep our business running, and I'm sure that MG companies like MG, they won't forget sustainability and habitable planet while running their businesses. So I'm curious to know that how did you manage to balance both?
Absolutely. Sustainability is one buzzword. It's actually not a buzzword. It's actually a need of the hour, which every consumer company, which they have to adapt to, in case we have to make sure the future of our next few generations that is ensured. So a very, very, very right and insightful question. And yes, at MG. And also from automotive perspective, I think there's a lot of initiatives which are in the pipeline to make sure that the planet is turning back into being more habitable, and supply chain is one very critical and important part of this entire initiative. As we talk about, just for the records, that the supply chain, it creates much greater social and environmental impact onto the as compared to the OEM operations. Basically, it accounts for more than 80% of the greenhouse gas emissions, and about 90% impact on the air, water, biodiversity, and geological resources. So having said that, as I mentioned, that we are working towards a green initiative and improving the sustainability throughout the value chain system. Now that also, when I say value chain system, that also includes our supplier partners. So some of the things that we should be doing is basically, to start with, reduce the length of the supply chain as a first step. When I say reducing length of the supply chain means, if I'm importing components from other country, I should try to, ensure that I'm localizing. By doing the localization, we would have a lot of impact on, controlling the overseas freight, and thereby help us in reducing the greenhouse gas emissions and reducing the carbon footprints. Second thing which I feel is that we must, of course, we should, and we must also extend our ISO legal requirements like ISO 14064, which deals with it's basically an international standard for greenhouse gas emission inventories and verification. That should be extended to our supplier partners, and as a big brother, we must hold their hand to ensure that they are given direction and a means to abide by the emission regulations, and thereby doing their bit in terms of reducing the carbon footprints. Another thing that we should be doing is we must resort to some of the proactive measures in the sense that we must drive for zero plastic packaging. We must start using green materials. See, normal OEM car companies, they are assembly plants. Basically, the raw material which is used is at the supplier locations. So from the design source perspective, we must migrate towards using the green material as part of our components, which get fit into the vehicles, so that we are going to be using the more reusable and environment friendly products. Second thing we must do is that the kind of green initiatives in terms of energy that in MG as such, we are trying to migrate for about 4 megawatts to start with the solar plus the air wind energy based power generation, and we are expecting that by next 8 years or so, we should be 100% be using the renewable resources for energy. So this same needs to be extended to our supplier partners to make sure that we are all working towards reducing the carbon footprints. And the eventual vision that we have is that we should become net zero within, if not within the span of next 10 years or so, at least for another 20 years or 15 years down the line, we must target to become net zero. Only then we can convert or make this planet more habitable, and the overall ecosystem would start turning back towards how it used to be before we started the walk for getting more polluted many years ago. So that is what is my take, my humble take, and I actually am a firm believer in this initiative. I'm always doing my bit to make this difference. So I think I was able to share. I think we are already running high on time. But okay, I would just quickly go to my next question to you. That everybody is talking about alternate source development. So what do you think? What are the key challenges and opportunities in this case for the alternate source development?
Yeah, so this is an interesting question. So really, I think as Vivek said, so we are sure. I mean, we're already split down to our time. So I'll try to be brief, but you can interrupt me in case we have something which is coming up immediately.
Yeah, if there is a hard stop.
Sure.
Yeah,
right.
So
We can.
Yeah, you can quickly take the question like in like you can respond in another 2 minutes, and then we'll go to the Q&A, and then we'll move on to the next session.
Perfect. So there is definitely a case right now for alternate supplier web-based, but it comes with a lot of challenges and opportunities. And on the I would talk about the opportunity side first. On the opportunities, this is a good opportunity to refresh your legacy designs, refresh your specifications. This is a good opportunity of value analysis, value engineering kind of workshops you can hold. A much better opportunity for your product upgrade, because your product was designed 20, 30, 40, 50 years back, and now you can really redesign it to match up to the latest and greatest technologies which have been available today, and they were not available earlier. And there is an always possibility of quality, cost, and feature optimization, which you can focus on while doing this alternate supplier and channels development. The challenge here is, many times what happens is your end customer needs and validation. So there is a huge cost and timeline which is involved into that. Then there are some designs, some drawings, some parts where you have a customer directed raw materials and special processes where you really cannot do anything onto it. And there are some source controlled specifications which you cannot kind of go around. Then also there is, and you need to see a trade-off, a commercial trade-off, how much efforts, money, resources you are putting to kind of develop alternate source versus facing and staying at the same place. And always, that's my experience, and there had always been challenge to get the resource commitments from your engineering and quality departments. So with that, I would like to summarize my take on to alternate supplier development. Actually.
So,
do you want me to take up the next one, or we should just go on to the question Q&A?
I think we can go on to the Q&A, I think, because our audience has quite a few questions.
Okay.
Plus we are running a little short of time. So, but I have to say that the conversation that you both just had was extremely engaging. I was in like at the edge of my seat listening to both of you the whole time, even though my camera was off, so you guys didn't see me. But very engaging conversation, and like very rightly put by both of you that sustainability is the need of the hour right now, and we need to be more proactive. So absolutely agree with both of you. So I'll move on to the question. We'll quickly take the questions. We have one question saying from an audience that this is actually a very interesting question. The question is that how do you measure sustainability in the manufacturing supply chain with key performance indicators, with KPIs? So it's a different question actually. So if any one of you want to take it.
okay, I would initiate. Probably Khushal can supplement to that. So see, what happens is we have the inventory in terms of the waste generation, hazardous waste generation, and some of the material which goes to the landfill site. We also have some parameters which is called major hazard company, which is MHA, and also we have parameters in terms of the type of or the quantity of effluent we generate, and then our parameters of returning it back to the after the treatment. So we have effluent treatment systems, we have STPs, we have sewage treatment. So this is for the water. And also we have the stack monitoring for the emission of the pollution that we generate from the plants. So these are the measurables which we put forth, and we abide by the government norms. And at the same time, when I talk about sustainability, these are the areas where we focus on in reducing. So once we do that, we reduce the impact on the environment. So that is how we do it.
All right. All right. I have one more question, is that how should we coach our organizations to create a resilient manufacturing supply chain?
Okay, so the question is, how should we force our organizations?
Coach.
Okay.
How should we coach our organizations to create a resilient manufacturing supply chain?
Yes, I think, as I said, I think this is all about how do you approach to the disruptions. The way I explained, so I think resiliency and robustness, these are the two things which everybody is now striving for. But, with the situations like this, I think we should look beyond that and try to be anti-fragile, which is, getting better and better with more and more disruptions. So I think it's time now to go one step beyond your resiliency and robustness. And for that, I think a lot of material is available. A lot of new tools have been developed in last 2 years, specifically onto the digital side, which can help organization to take some actionable, initiatives, which can really show you some tangible benefits of making your, whole system more pandemic proof.
All right. Very well put. So thank you so much, gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have any more questions for Mr. Vivek or Mr. Kushal, please feel free to reach out to us. We will get them answered. But thank you so much once again for joining us today and for having this very engaging conversation on our resilient manufacturing supply chain. Thank you for being with us. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jyoti. Thanks, Kushal. Nice seeing
thank
you.
you. Take care. Bye.
Okay. Yeah. Bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, we now have a sponsor video for all of you, which is a video of Hexagon. So I would like to request for that video to be played for you. So can we please have the Hexagon video played?
Manufacturers today are looking for smarter ways to improve quality and productivity. Hexagon is a global leader in digital solutions that create autonomous connected ecosystems, where data is connected seamlessly, converging the physical and digital worlds and building intelligence into all processes. Exalt, Hexagon's framework for using IoT data to accelerate digital transformation, provides a base of technologies like cloud computing and artificial intelligence, which enable our smart manufacturing solutions. Hexagon's Manufacturing Intelligence division is digitally transforming manufacturing by converging design and engineering, production and metrology solutions to make our customers' factories smarter. Our design and engineering solutions use computer-aided engineering techniques to simulate reality, so quality is embedded into product design and manufacturability is guaranteed. Our production solutions include CNC simulation and computer-aided manufacturing software that ensure design intent is maintained through the production process, improving productivity and delivering high-quality components. Our metrology sensors capture real-world data for positioning and inspection, while metrology software provides actionable information through advanced analytics and intuitive reporting. Hexagon's expertise in sensor technologies, software and data orchestration enables autonomous connected ecosystems for suppliers and customers, improving quality and productivity by making your factory smarter.
So that was the sponsor videos, ladies and gentlemen, by Hexagon. So we now have a sponsor presentation on how can automated QMS solution help in creating a culture of quality. This presentation will be given by Mr. Aditya Chaudhary, Director of Sales for Hexagon Smart Manufacturing in India. So Mr. Chaudhary, over to you. I would like for you to begin, please. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Julie. Let me just share my screen. All right. Just can you confirm if the presentation is visible to you?
Yes, we can see it.
All right. Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. So as Julie mentioned, I'll be talking about how a QMS system can help you create a culture of quality within your organization. All right. So very quickly about my company. You would have seen in the video that Hexagon is a global leader in connected autonomous systems. And our aim is to provide productivity and quality improvement solutions to our customers. And as you can see from this slide, we serve multiple industries across the segments, right from industrial facilities to manufacturing, even to cities and nations. Okay, so before I talk about the quality culture, let me just define quickly what really is culture, right? Now, culture as defined by some of the intellectual gurus in this area who work on corporate culture have defined culture as an operating system which runs a company. So this basically answers the question that the things which happen in a company, why do they happen in a certain way, right? Now, when we look from outside of these companies, we often say that, hey, Toyota has a culture of building quality vehicles. Or we can say that closer home, Hero MotoCorp has got a culture for creating large volumes of bikes. Right? So a culture basically defines how a company runs it basically is the DNA of that organization. All right. Now, let's just quickly look at India's position in the global manufacturing community, right? As the speakers before me spoke about the need for sourcing from multiple sources, and India is becoming a source, of interest to many manufacturers across the world. Let's just look at where do we stand currently. So there was a study done by A.T. Kearney, who kind of did a survey of about 500 companies globally and ranked those companies in 5 quintiles, right? So you can see that currently Indian companies are placed in the 4th quintile, right? Which means that there are about 60% companies which are better, which are outside India. And some of the parameters which they assessed for rating those companies were customer satisfaction, quality, profitability, agility, and innovation. And you can see that one of the main reasons, as highlighted by this paper, is that the reason Indian companies are in the 4th quintile is because the quality which is considered from Indian companies is not really up to the standards which some of the major manufacturers require or some of the major customers require, right? So should we be really worrying about quality coming from India? And my answer would be yes. Now, this pandemic has created an unprecedented opportunity for India to be the manufacturer for the world. As I said, that manufacturers around the world are looking at sourcing parts and outsourcing their manufacturing to countries other than China. India definitely offers a very attractive alternate to those companies because, first of all, there's a big market available, plus there's a skilled manpower available. But let's look at some of the stats, what they talk about. Now, one of the closest competitor to India is Vietnam in the Asian region, right? And look what Vietnam has done. So the first graphic which you see is share of exported products needing advanced engineering and manufacturing, which is where quality plays an important role. So this gray bar is Vietnam's bar. In about 18 years, their share of products which require advanced engineering increased from 5% to 29%. And in India's case, although it's increased, but it's still much less, just 9% increase. Similarly, global market share of advanced engineering products, if you see, in 1997, 13.8% was European Union, the big major 5 economies of European Union. And China was a very small bit. And look at 2015, China accounts for 15.2% of advanced engineering products. Similarly, the third graphic is on import of advanced engineering products by EU. Again, you can see that the way our competitors have increased in this area and the Indian companies are still lying in the bottom of the barrel. So yes, we should be worrying about quality coming from India. And there are ways and means to improve quality. And this is what I'm going to talk about in the rest of my presentation. Now, how do we create a culture of quality? Now, according to me, there are 4 facets which require to create any culture for that matter, right? The first is people. Second one is vital few. Third one is processes and technology. So I'll talk about each of those in rest of my slides. Now, people, as as it is put, that they are the heart of any organization. I mean, your organization is as good as your people, right? But especially when we talk about quality, quality is typically relegated to the quality department in organizations. But what I'm talking about is democratization of quality, not in a particular department, but across the organization, right? Now, quality actually is born out of the design phase. Product design is where the quality of any product is born. And then your supply chain plays a very important role, because unless your supply chain is capable, no matter how good your own processes are, your own designs are, you will never ever be able to produce quality goods. Next is manufacturing. Third is logistics, sales, and customer usage. The customer usage is where the feedback comes. So the way to democratize quality is to link all these silos of data and information and bring it on a common platform. Okay, so let's talk about what is this terminology which I'm introducing here is vital few. Okay. Now, simply put, vital few is the 20-80 rule applied to the quality domain, which means what are those 20% parameters which affect 80% of my quality, right? So vital few are those 20% parameters which affect my 80% quality. All right, but why do we keep track of that? Okay, let me just give you an analogy. So when you play any game, let's assume that you play cricket, and if you don't record the score, or if you don't look at the score, after a certain point you'll get bored of it, and then you'll start losing interest, isn't it? The way you get hooked to any game, whether it is cricket or football, is by looking at the score. You look at, okay, 6 balls, 18 runs, that creates an excitement, isn't it? So displaying of vital fews in an organization can actually catalyze your effort of creating a culture of quality, right? I'm just taking a small example of a shop floor add-on, which basically speaks about OEE in different line. And if people on the call who understand, one of the components of OEE is actually quality, right? So giving real-time information and keeping everyone in the organization aware about the quality KPIs motivates people. So that, according to me, is the second pillar of creating the culture of quality. Now, some of the examples of vital fews are defects, which is measured in ppm, dpm, OTCS, COPS, scrap rate, etc., etc. Now, the next pillar of creating a culture of quality is the process. Now, people in the quality department would instantly recognize these processes: FSMA, APQP, PPAP, FMEA, Audits, Six Sigma, right? One of the challenges with these processes are that, they are very lengthy, quite involved. And when it comes to audits, it's really a nightmare, right? So what our experience has shown is that if these processes are simplified, and if the employees are able to engage with the processes better, the compliance becomes much better. Now, the last pillar about creating the culture of quality is technology. Now, in technology, there are two components. The first component is automation. Automation definitely, requires a lot of investment in terms of, robos, controllers, and PLC devices, etc., etc. So that's one aspect. The other aspect of technology is to create an electronic QMS system. So according to us, a QMS system is an essential element for creating culture of quality in an organization. Now, let me just talk about what exactly is a QMS system and how it really helps in creating a culture of quality. Right? So quality management system has got about these 6 aspects of a QMS system. The first aspect is document control. Now, one of the major challenges in managing quality without an automated quality management system is that there's a ton of paper. Recently, we went to a company, and just to give you the quantum of paperwork required in managing quality, I'm just giving you that example. This company is a major manufacturer of two-wheelers in the country. And when we went there, we were kind of working with them on this, and we figured that the amount of documentation they create in 1 week is about 180 pages, right? So that is the quantum of data we are dealing with. Per week, 180 pages, and that was, by the way, one department, and there are other departments also. So the first thing which comes as the most important facet of managing this quality is document control. And the moment you start democratizing document control through an automated QMS system, as I said, the chances that you are able to do it as a will rather than a push from the management increases. Second is audits. When everything is controlled electronically, manage approvals, everything is workflow automated, audits become much more easier, right? Third is non-compliance handling and Kappa. The fourth one is, as I said, various processes, training, and the last one is quality control. All right, so I'll just give you some customer examples where, you know, an automated QMS system was in a way helping the customer create that culture of quality. Now, this is a customer, we cannot name it due to various reasons. This customer used our QMS system, and the fundamental task which they started with was just document control. And they reported that the system was so intuitive and flexible. And most importantly, this system was available every time, anytime to their employees, which means that since it's a SaaS-based solution, it can be accessed through a mobile phone or a laptop outside the company or inside the company, right? So it was much easier for their on-field and on-service, personnel to be hooked onto the system and accessing key information and giving key information, right? And that resulted in a 40% reduction in time in finding the right documents and then uploading important quality data into the system. Okay. So here's a quick example of a company called Train Technologies. So Train Technologies is a market leader in commercial as well as residential HVAC systems. Now, this was a company, perfect example of how do you start small and then grow big. So this company started with just one plant, one line, and the reason they have to do was that this is a company which has got a 100-year-old legacy, right? And they really wanted to test out whether the system would be adopted well by the employees on the shop floor. And it did. In fact, it made such an impact that their scrap and rework reduced by 32%, and their overall warranty costs were reduced by approximately 70%. This gave them the encouragement to scale up the solution from just one plant, one line to about 40 plants across the world. Plenty is again one of my favorite examples because this comes from a very unique industry, right? So this is from the food industry. And as many of you would know that food is a highly regulated industry, right? And these industries are subjected to extensive audits, and they have to, maintain a ton of documentation on, what ingredients are going in the food, etc., etc. And this company actually makes vertical gardens, which produce food, and they claim that the food which they produce consumes 99% less land and approximately 80% less water. Okay, so this is sustainability, and we are partnering with this company, and their entire audit requirement for food safety compliance is done using our platform. There's another customer which is in the medical devices industry. So this is where again, medical devices again is an industry which is heavily regulated. They are subject to periodic audits from various agencies, and in their case, They used the QMS system for audit management, and it reduced the complexity, first of all, involved in audit management. And they were able to drive standardization across 90 locations of theirs. And that resulted in approximately $500,000 in annual saving and 92% reduction in time required for audits. The last point, which I had mentioned in my quality circle, was quality control. Now, quality control is primarily an activity which is done post facto, which means when the part is manufactured, it is measured, it's inspected. There's a sampling plan based on which the measurements happen. And most of the companies, this data is still recorded on a piece of paper. And that makes analytics just impossible. Either someone, retypes that data from paper into Excel, and then they have Excel macros to do it. But that is, again, very, old way of doing things. It's very slow. And most importantly is you're still relying on silos of information. So with our QMS system, you can actually integrate all this data, bring it on a common platform, and do a comprehensive analysis, which is statistical process control analysis, and which can actually help you perform design of experiment studies to really find out what are those parameters which are really affecting your quality, which means I again go back to my proposition of identifying the vital fews. And this tool can actually help you identify your vital fews and keep a track of that. Now all my talk so far has been quality management system for creating value, but it's not just the value which you're creating, you're also creating a lot of profitability out of it. So there's a lot of value in using an automated quality management system. And some of the benefits which are seen on the slides are this: it can actually help you reduce the risk of non-compliance, it can streamline operations, reduce costs, and grow revenue and profits. And here are some of the numbers. So 20% reduction in your time spent in planning and reporting audits. I'm just taking some of the numbers. In terms of reducing costs, it can reduce 3% of your scrap cost, 10% reduction in your field failure costs. And in terms of streamlining operations, again, you have a fair amount of value which is which the solution can offer you. Right, so ETQ is one of the most comprehensive QMS system which is provided by Hexagon. If you need more information about that, you can certainly either contact me or you can write to the organizers. They will connect you to our company, and we'll be more than happy to support you in your quest for creating a culture of quality. So thank you very much. So Julie, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chaudhary. That presentation was very to the point, very simplistically, very simple to understand, and very, very clear, very to the point. So thank you so much. Let's see if we have any questions from our audience. Yes, so we have one question. So you spoke about, so I think from what this audience question says, so I think you spoke about quality systems, right? QMS teams in the company. So the question is that how do you increase the value of QMS in an organization, and what are the strategies to influence them?
Okay, so yeah, I mean, as I said that the way you can influence the quality is, first of all, you need to increase the engagement with the employees, right? Correct. And that engagement happens with the ease of use. And we should all realize the fact that we are today living in a hyper-connected world. Mm-hmm. Apple throws me a statistic every Sunday on my iPhone. It says that your average usage last week was 3.5 hours. Now just imagine if we spend 3.5 hours of our per day time on a phone, then it makes all the more sense to provide technologies and information on that phone itself, isn't it? So one of the major reasons that the automated QMS systems are gaining traction world over, and it's also helping in creating the culture of quality, is that it's accessibility, it's engagement with the employees. The more they engage, the better chances are that, it will be adopted better in the company.
Okay. All right. All right. Another question that we have from the audience is that how does quality culture impact quality management practices?
Okay. So, as I said, culture is your DNA, right? So, it is definitely, software comes later, the platform comes later. It's actually the way things are being done in an organization. Right? So, I would rather put that the culture is something which should be already there, and a QMS system can then help you elevate that. Right?
Makes sense, right?
Right. And in terms of the quality management, so sorry, what was the last part of the question you said?
That how does quality culture, so which you are talking about, impact quality management practices?
Right. So obviously, as I said, that management practices are born out of the culture and not the other way around. So I think that unless you already have something, which means a culture of quality, an established processes for quality, it won't make sense, isn't it?
Right. Okay. We have another question. This is actually quite an interesting question. So from what I'm reading from this audience's question, so you spoke about, of course, you spoke about product quality and quality culture and everything. So the question is that how can you develop a product safety culture? You were talking about quality culture. This person is asked, this gentleman or whoever is asking about how can you develop a product safety culture through a culture of quality?
Product safety. I mean, maybe is it production safety or product safety? Because product safety is a different aspect altogether.
Production safety, yes. I'm sure he means production safety. Yes.
Okay. Right. All right. So you're right. So one of the capabilities which any QMS system brings on table is its ability to manage environment, health, and safety. Right. Now, speakers before me spoke about sustainability. Right. And so one of the most important aspects of sustainability is the impact on the environment. Right. How much effluent you are generating, how much electricity you are consuming, and it's not in the absolute terms, in terms of the volume of production you are doing. Right? Now, and also in terms of safety. Now, safety is typically measured in terms of incidents per day. And in most of the companies, safety is regulated through SOPs, standard operating procedures. Okay. Now, what we have come to realize is that the reason people don't adopt to the SOPs is that either they are too cumbersome or they are just pushed down employees' throat. Right? And that there again comes the point of engagement of employees. How are you engaging your employees? Right? If you give them 2 days of training of something, there are chances that 30% of that would be retained and 70% would be whitewashed. But when you give contextualized information to the employee at the right time in bits and pieces, it makes much more sense. The reason I'm saying is this, that when you are giving information in bits and pieces, first of all, the attention span of people is very small these days, right? And if a person has to perform an activity which requires him to perform certain SOPs for his own safety, and if he is given only that information at the time he's doing that thing, the chances are that he will absorb 70 to 80% of that information and he'll comply to it.
Correct.
And that is why environment, health, and safety is actually part of a QMS system. If you look at the way these KPIs are tracked, these KPIs are primarily tracked in exactly the same way as the quality KPIs are tracked. I hope that this answers your audience.
It does. It does. It pretty much it's very clear from what you told us. And yeah, so those were the questions from the audience. So thank you so much, Mr. Chaudhary, for joining us today. Thank you very much. So ladies and gentlemen, so you just saw Mr. Chaudhary's address, and we also got your questions answered for you from Mr. Chaudhary. So now that you have enough information on culture of quality, we have 3 questions for you. We have 3 polls for you. So we would love for you to please vote. So I would like to request for the first poll to be displayed on your screen. Yes, so we have the first poll on our screen. You have 10 seconds to vote. So the question is that, do you think there is a culture of quality in your company? So your options are yes and no. You have 10 seconds. Please vote away.
The result is on your WhatsApp.
So we have the results with us. We have 87% saying yes, that they do have that culture, and 12% are saying no, they don't. So yeah, so we have that result with us. So we'll be moving on to the next question now. Can we have the next question for the poll? Yes. So the question is that, is there an ongoing initiative in your company towards improving the product quality? Yes or no? So you have 10 seconds to vote. Please vote away. So we got quite a good response for the first one. So let's see. Oh, we have the results for the second one as well. The result is that 93% voted that yes, they do have such a culture, and 66% voted no. So that's lovely. So we can we have the third poll, please? The third poll is your company thinking of implementing a quality management system, QMS? or your options are yes or no. You have 10 seconds to vote. Can we have the result? Yes, so we have the result. 76% have said that yes, they do. Their company does implement quality management system, while 23% have said no. So I think that was quite a good result for all three polls. I think like most companies, they do have a really strong culture of quality within their organizations. So yes, so thank you so much everyone, audience, for voting and for being a part of the polls. And thank you once again, Mr. Chaudhary, for joining us today. Ladies and gentlemen, moving on. It's now time for the presentation on manufacturing business, the changing industry dynamics in the post-pandemic scenario. This presentation will be given by Mr. Neeraj Visaria, the Managing Director and CEO at Premium Transmission. So Mr. Visaria, the stage is all yours. Yeah. Sir, you're on mute. Or I can't hear you. I mean, I think Mr. Bisaria will be joining us. I think we'll be able to hear you now.
Yeah, are you able to hear me now?
Yes, we can see you and we can hear you.
Okay.
All right.
Sorry for the trouble.
So that's absolutely fine, not a problem. We're happy to have you.
So thank you. And are you able to see my presentation also?
Yes, we can see your screen as well.
Okay, thank you. So everybody, I think we had a good session in last couple of hours. Very enriching talk on several subjects, but the most prominent and the most concurrent talks these days is how the industry will, what are the dynamics with industry will play post-pandemic. Although pandemic is receding now, but we have to see the what effect and what impact has created it on industry at a large, not only in our country in India, but across the globe. So I have few thoughts which I have summarized here, and will be happy at the end to see that what are the views or questions on that. So first, what was the pre-pandemic world? If you know, in the pre-pandemic world, it was, we were heading since last 20-30 years or a little more than that in a global industry environment where, you know, the several companies, global industrial environment, putting plant in different countries, manufacturing not only the complete setup, but something in some countries, something in some country, and assembling in another country and supplying across the world. So it was the kind of one word kind of scenario which was evolving. And the basic premise behind this was a seamless supply chain and the transportation of the goods and the services across the globe. The second, this boundaryless trade. So it was not only the manufacturing, the whole trade practice was absolutely boundaryless, because in a day you can move from one continent to another, or rather you can cover 3 continents in a day. This was the kind of scenario which we were living. So trade was absolutely boundaryless. Then people were having global citizenship. When we say global citizenship, that we say in terms of trade, mostly in terms of businesses, that there are times when people are waking up early in the US, and then when they are, in the night, they are sleeping somewhere in the Asia. So these were the kind of setup which we were living. Low cost country mindset. Most of the people were trying that manufacturing should go to the low cost country, or the services should go to the low cost country, and that need to be and the services or the goods need to be delivered across the globe so that we optimize or maximize our profits. The cross country and continent consumer relationship. So the consumer relation, it is not that where the product is, the consumer will be there only. The product and consumer was cross country. It can be a different countries, and it can be even in different continents. So the product produced in Asia was largely you will find in US or Europe, or anywhere else in the world. Personal presence was having a greater impact. This was always believed, and that in any business or industry scenario, the personal presence makes much greater impact than it was the any other kind of communication. More teams than Microsoft Teams. So there was too much talk on leadership development, and that was around how you make a team. So how you make a team means with the personal presence. And then things were more concrete than discrete. So this was the pre-pandemic world where we were living, and we were taking most of these things granted and growing even more. So this was how the pre-pandemic world, which I can summarize that we were living on the major bullets. Then we go how after the pandemic. I will not discuss how the pandemic been or what it has been, but I will say that how the dynamics, when we try to understand how the dynamics will go, but how the dynamics will change. So dynamics, I have tried to put it in the 4th quadrant. The first is dynamic, how the dynamics of within the industry will change, how the dynamic across the industry, business to business will change, dynamics between industry and consumers, and dynamics among consumers. Because I believe it is not only the industry dynamics will change, but the overall dynamics of the business scenario will change. And that's why we will try to see that, in the next slides, that how these things have changes in different aspects of the business. When we say dynamics within the industry, so I have tried to divide it into the 2 aspects, because in any industry, the aspects are from the 2 points. One is process dynamics and the people dynamics. So when we say the process dynamics, the first is most of the processes from extended time. When we were in the normal setup of industry before pre-pandemic, it was time were extending. Now it has become the processes all the time, because since things are virtual, so most of the time it has become 24/7. Then everyone to essential one, So earlier when everybody was supposed to come in the at the workplace, in the premise where he is supposed to contribute. But now the post-pandemic, there is a thought that how should we see that only the essential ones are available, and rest how it can be managed virtually. So it can be said that hybrid model. Then real presence to virtual presence. We are trying that how we can see that instead of real presence, how we can increase virtual presence and create the same output or the impact. Presence with preoccupied mind. This is also a dynamics which is coming very I will say in a very impactful manner. The point is that when a person or when a businessman or a employee or anybody is coming to either to work or going to meet the customer or going to deliver or accept a business transaction, the mind is very preoccupied in the sense that there is either a worry about the pandemic itself, or the worry about the general environment, which is different than what most of us were used to. Then infra to support pandemic norms. This is also becoming as a process that in any environment you go, whether it is a service setup or it is a manufacturing setup or it is any kind of setup, it has become very important that whether we have a minimum infra to support the pandemic norms, which have been now becoming a kind of requirement in any industry if you want to work. Then meeting together to not sitting together. Earlier there was big requirement that people should sit together, discuss together and talk together. But now you have to meet, but you may not be sitting together. And it is not only sitting together at distances, but it is also there are times when the teams are sitting and they are meeting in an environment, they are sitting in a different countries also, and maybe at least in different cities for the same company. Then physical verification, virtual assessment. This is also, we were just before Mr. Chaudhary was talking about QMS. Now the prevalent practice in the industry is also coming across, because now physical verifications or the product qualifications is now also going to the virtual assessment. So these are the few things which are very prominently, I can say, is working. Then when we go to the people dynamics, wellness and illness has come at the topmost priority, that it is important that you keep yourself well and fit and fine. Then furloughs has been the order of the day these days, and the schooling from home for the children, the people with families, or so schooling from home and then work from home. Most of us are talking about work from home, but at the same time there is a schooling from home. So how these two things, which require entirely a different kind of setup, will go hand in hand, that is important. And when there is a schooling, then there are children's, and then there is a parents, and work from home for parents and schooling for children. So those chemistry within the home or the workplace also need to be managed. Now, stay home, stay safe. This was the buzzword, especially in the wave one of pandemic. But now staying home and staying safe, and still we have to keep working. So this is a kind of different dynamics which has played, and now we have to become used to that, how to stay home and still process the transaction which our workplace required. Then enabled homes. Now we have to live in a home which should have a minimum infrastructure so that it facilitates working from home. It facilitates digital transactions. Since this has come, now a different kind of orientation has also required, and skills are required. And there are several industries which are not able to transit from one kind of set of working which they were doing since many years to a different setup. So there are layoffs, and then people need additional skill for IT enabled environments. There has been a time, especially even in the offices of today's, that people are not very competent on handling IT or the digital assets. But now this skill has become the kind of mandatory for each one of us. So when we go from within industry to industry to industry, so global network with local self-reliance. We were discussing about supply chain models also in one of the session. So although the global industry network is required, but now you should have global network, that is must, because in no country can be self-sufficient in generating and consuming also of all kind of products. Okay, so we should have global network, but we should have local self-reliance, so that in case of pandemic-like scenario, you should not be completely stopped for everything and anything. As we were talking about chips availability, right? So the more than 80% of the world, rather even 90% world were depending upon China and nearby countries for chips. Now it has been realized that this is not something which is going to be sustained longer. So there are countries who has to invest on chip manufacturing, and I think India is also trying for one of that. So development of more centers of excellence in manufacturing as well as in service. So we cannot have like India is in software, or some other few countries in different kind of services, some countries in China is in manufacturing. So these kind of excellence centers has to be increased across the globe in more numbers, because the logistic and the SCM and the connectivity during such scenarios have been felt that it stops almost the overall industry environment. Then reorganized SCM and warehousing. We have to see that for most of the waves which we have seen in different times, but generally it is going from 1 to 3 months, or 2 to 3 months in any country, or maybe in any continent. So we should have a different kind of organization of SCM and warehousing, so that these kind of the shocks in terms of time and in terms of travel can be absorbed. That digitization or digitalization as a pivot for the industry interaction, because now industry to industry interaction, it should be more through digital form of communication rather than personal visits or inspections. So this will become the pivot, and that is where the cloud and the SaaS-based things will come, which we have discussed earlier. Now the another part is that customer acquisition and interaction will require different skills, since the kind of the personal interaction, the travel, the way we communicate is changing. So customer acquisition was earlier required, the skill which was required to acquire a customer for acquisition as well as interaction, it will now require a different skill. Then order fulfillment process, OFP, and the process transparency will be the attribute the customer connect. Since customer is not able to visit physically, or they are not able to see the things so frequently as they were used to. So order fulfillment process and process transparency, this kind of environment for any industry will become a requirement or a differentiator for the customer connects. The ability to remote monitor performance and possibly repair will have a competitive edge. So it is important that when somebody has acquired an asset or some products from some company, how well you can remotely monitor the performance and how well you can even repair those things will create a competitive edge. Reliability and replacement will be the key factor to the customer delight, since there is overall environment has become uncertain. So any product which will give more reliability and a quick replacement rather than repair with the physical presence will have a key factor for customer delight. So this is the dynamics which we see that will be different for B2B kind of setups. Then we go to the industry to the consumer. So the prominent and the most important point, the dynamics between industry and consumers will change, is industry must design, develop, and pack products keeping end customer in mind, no matter where they are in the value chain. So any company, any industry which is making a product, they have to design and they have to pack their products keeping end customer in mind. The point is now there will be digital platforms, e-commerce setup in between. So product may be picked up from the industry and it may directly go to the customer. There may not be any dealer setup or distributor setup in between. So company cannot pack a product that it will be handled or it will be checked in between. So whenever we are making a product, it has to be seen that keeping end customer in mind. Digital visibility of industry, products and services will be the key factor for consumer attention and retention. So company has to advertise themselves and make them more available on social media platforms, rather industry networks, and digital presence has to be increased, because that is what is the available to the people now when they are staying at home and they are trying to work from home or be in an environment which has a less physical presence. The product availability of e-com will be almost necessary. So any company, no matter how big you are or how small you are, your product availability in e-com setup will become almost necessary. So this is how between industry and consumer things may change. Consumer should be, from consumer side, if you see, consumer should be more e-commerce and e-transaction friendly. So we all have to see that how we identify the right products in a e-commerce setup and how we transact securely for buying the products. Consumer must acquire secure infra for e-com, e-payment and educate security. So we must have to see that the gadgets which we are using are properly secured, because the kind of world when change from physical to digital or the virtual, the theft also will change in the similar way, or insecurity of these kind of setups will also change in a different way. So we should have the gadgets which are e-commerce friendly, e-payment secure and has adequate security. Then repeat business will be more dependent on experience and review with more than touch and feel. So how the repeat business will come, how you will acquire or retain a customer, that will depend more on experience of the product, because that is where the customer is seeing, plus reviews which they see in a digital world, rather than touch and feel, because now it will not be that much that people can go in the showroom and touch and feel the things all the time. This is the kind of consumer dynamics which we see to change. Then we go to the how dynamics among the consumers will be different. AI, artificial intelligence, will be more influential than consumer to consumer feedback. Since people are less meeting with each other, they are not able to share informal feedback or the reviews with each other. So artificial intelligence, which will come on the digital platform of various kind, whether it is on your mobile, whether it is on social media or industrial network, will work more for attracting the customers or the consumers. The speed of resolution consumer queries or issue will be more, or the issues will be more, attract more consumers. So since the consumer or the customer is sitting at home most of the time and there are no physical stores, it is sold through e-commerce. So speedy resolution will differentiate the good companies from the average performing companies. And point of consumption, this is, I think, is the most important point in this, is point of consumption will be more supreme than point of sale of manufacturing. Earlier, we used to identify the which thing we will buy or which product we will buy where, in which country, or at which store, the kind of. So point of sale was more prominent. and consumer used to go there, but now what will happen, that point of consumption will become more important, and the product or the product advertisement or the product availability at that point will become more important. So the biggest dynamics among the consumer will change. The point of consumption will become more important because things are available globally and it is through e-commerce. the point of consumption will be more supreme than point of sale or manufacturing. So this is the some points between industry to industry, industry to consumer, within the industry. But what is the points which need to watch, which will either make these points more impactful, or it may change even further, or some points may add, will depend upon will pandemic will become endemic soon. So this is the major question which we all have. So this we need to see that how it will go. Second, will the economics overpower again? Because in many a times it has been seen when some kind of environment turbulence or industry turbulence comes, there are many things which are decided that this is how the disciplines will take place. But at the end of the day, economics overpowers again. So this also need to be seen that how the industry dynamics will play on this. And the third is, will health infra will see the change across the world. There are so much of talk that now health infra, especially in underdeveloped or the developing countries, but will this become the priorities for all the governments and the leaders, or as the pandemic becomes the endemics, we will go to the the same environment or same kind of negligence again? So these are the three questions which are still in mind, which will define the dynamics going forward. But I am keeping this as a point to watch for the time being. So this is what these are my thoughts on this. I will be happy to answer any question if it is there on this. Thank you. Julie, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Bisaria. Very precisely put address and presentation about where the industry might be heading in the post-pandemic world, and what we should anticipate and what we should expect, because we can't tell the future, but we can definitely anticipate certain things. So I see where that leads us. We do have a couple of questions for you. Yes. So one question we have from an audience member is that, do you see any hope of a return to normal for the manufacturing industry in 2022, or will volatility remain a primary business challenge? So I think you just spoke about going from pandemic to endemic. So I think this question is relevant to that part which you spoke. So.
No, if it is only for the short term in 2022, I see that this will remain volatile at least for this year end. Okay, because maybe in India it is going to recede, but we keep hearing in a different part of the world it keep coming up and down. But it's definitely going down, and things are coming to normal. But definition of normal will not remain as it was normal earlier. That I am sure.
Right. We have another question from an audience member. That the question is that, do you think we need a culture of collaboration for the manufacturing industry to come above the pandemic?
So culture of collaboration was always required. Now it is much more required because the overall economic scenario and the losses which everybody has suffered. So if people can collaborate and they can see that loss of employment can be reduced, or efficiencies can be improved in the much shorter time than it may take, so that will definitely be helpful.
Correct. One more question we have is that, has COVID-19 amplified existing manufacturing trends which were seen before the pandemic?
I don't know what is the in which sense it has been asked. That is
whatever trends we had, manufacturing trends, or even like industrial bearing trends, like since premium transmission is into bearing. So even before the pandemic, the trends that we saw. So have those trends boomed? Have those trends increased because of the pandemic, or what is this?
Not because of the pandemic, since there was a lull in between. Industry was not able to operate. Okay, so definitely there is a strong desire across the industry to set back the losses again, to come over the setbacks which has happened. And that's why there is a boom. I was just reading a couple of hours ago that now Moody has revised India growth prospects from 7% to 9.5%. So at least I can say in India, the things are definitely going to boom, and the desire of people to perform and do better is much higher.
That's good news for the industry. I'm very happy to hear that. We have one more question. Do you foresee a period of job creation across the country in the manufacturing industry post the pandemic?
Yes, definitely yes, because if industry is on the growth path, then there will definitely be jobs which will get created. And government is putting so much on infrastructure focus. So infrastructure is the propeller of growth for all kind of industry. So there will definitely be job creations.
Right. So I think from whatever your presentation gave us and whatever the questions that you just answered, I think we have the industry in India at least is heading towards a positive direction, is what I feel.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I think that's great news for all of us. I think we just have to keep working towards that. So yes. So I think this has been wonderful. So thank you so much.
Thanks. Pleasure.
Thank you, Mr. Bisaria. So. Ladies and gentlemen, this was the last address of our forum today, and I think I have had a very good time the past 3 hours that we spent at this forum, because we covered everything in sustainability from the post-pandemic scenario to the first keynote address where we talked about sustainability through additive manufacturing. Then we spoke about resilient supply chains, and we talked about PLM solutions. I think we covered a lot of bases in manufacturing and sustainability. So yes, I hope you found this forum as informative as I did. And thank you for your questions for our speakers and our presenters. So before we close, I would like to thank you, of course, our wonderful audience, for being a part of today's forum. I would also like to thank our revered speakers and our title sponsor, Siemens Digital Industries Software, our technology partner, Hexagon, and metalworking fluid partner, Blazer Swiss Glue. So thank you all very much once again, and I will see you next time. Thank you.